Hello and welcome to Growing Up Geek, the weekly podcast for geek entertainment and nostalgia. My name is Brad and I am joined by my brother Matt.
Hello.
And my brother Rob.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. How's it going with you guys?
It's going well. I went to see my friend get married.
Oh, yeah.
Took Greyhound. Let's see here. My bus broke down. I got bled on by a homeless guy.
Nice.
Was laid over for 2.5 hours, and I almost missed the wedding. Oh, and I lost my bag.
Geez, can you go into detail about the homeless guy? I think that's the most shocking sounding part.
I know, absolutely. I was waiting at the bus stop in Connecticut, Hartford, Connecticut.
Yeah.
And while I'm waiting in line, all of a sudden, this homeless guy comes up, and he's friendly, and he shakes my hand. He's like, here, thank you, like, can I get some money? I'm trying to buy some Chinese food and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, I guess. I looked down at my hand, and his knuckle was bleeding, and like pretty profusely, and it got on both my hands.
Jeez, I hope he's okay.
I know.
Was it just like a cut?
I guess. I don't know what it was, like scratched up, cut up.
I hear that homeless people blood is like dog saliva, though. It's incredibly clean.
And it keeps you young.
The alcohol content,
right.
Like a homeless person's blood you can use to wash your hands.
Little pro tip at the beginning. And Matt, you I heard had a semi-interesting experience with a movie wrap party.
Oh, yeah. Mariana, this girl that I recently met, she works at a casting agency to cast extras and butt doubles as well.
Right. Yes.
And
I was thinking about that, by the way, Matt. And you are an aspiring actor. Have you ever thought about working your way into the industry this way? Maybe from the bottom up, shall we say?
No, I like what you're saying. Yeah, mm-hmm. It's an interesting idea. My glutes are always flexed, and they're looking for unclenched glutes.
I think we'll move on past that.
It's a stress thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the wrap party, just as we were walking in, which was this really like lovely restaurant in downtown Pittsburgh, the guy who was the lead actor in Dark City, whose name I don't remember.
Big geek movie.
Yeah, I think it precedes The Matrix.
Sure.
Yeah, really awesome movie. He ended up in like A Knight's Tale and some other flicks, but the dude from Dark City was there.
That's awesome.
And I basked in his presence, and that was nice.
And he wasn't the one with the butt double. That was somebody else.
No, yeah, that was... I mean, he would definitely do his own butt scenes, I imagine.
His own butt work.
How have you been, Brad?
I've been well. I had an interesting experience when I went to see Prince Caspian this week. I sat with a whole row of children in front of me and realized what a different experience it is going to the movies with children.
Especially when they're not yours.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, come on, man. Those allegations were never proven.
Yeah.
So the trailer for this movie called Beverly Hills Chihuahua came on with all these CG chihuahuas dancing. It's the kind of thing that I would normally think is so cheesy.
Yeah.
But these kids just started loving it. And I couldn't help but start joining in and laughing too. So recommend that you see movies with children. It changes the experience.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll be sure to rustle up some children for my next outing.
Where does one find children to view movies with?
They're readily available.
Okay.
So from that, somehow we will transition into the news. And Rob, if you don't mind, we can start with you. What was your favorite news story this week?
Well, I don't mind starting off the news story. Okay. For both Rock Band and for Guitar Hero, there have been released new tracks by Muse.
Ooh.
I know we're always talking about Rock Band and Guitar Hero, and maybe people are getting sick of it, or maybe people love this show because we love that game.
Yeah.
Either way, I'm definitely reporting this because Muse is my favorite band.
Yeah.
Huge fan, but I am so torn at this moment right now because on Rock Band, they released one Muse song, and it's Hysteria.
Right.
Which is an amazing bass-driven song.
Sure.
And it's like a must-have. I must have that song.
Nice.
Guitar Hero 3, they actually released a 3-track pack of Muse songs.
Right.
Including Exopolitics off of the latest album, Supermassive Black Hole.
Right, classic.
A goodie.
And Stockholm Syndrome. And, look those songs up if you don't know what they are. But the point is, I so want to play each and every single one of these, but what I don't know is if Rock Band is planning on getting any of those songs added to their list.
Right.
And am I crazy enough? I may be to download, these Guitar Hero 3 tracks, even with that possibility that down the road they'll come out on Rock Band, and I'll have to buy those too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, it looks like they've found 3 good reasons to have you crawl back for more.
They did.
Cool. Well, everybody keep your eye out for that. An amazing band.
Yeah.
And so now we will move to Matt. Your favorite geek news story, sir?
This one seemed in the realm of sci-fi just enough. That endless debate of whether or not robots or half man, half animals will overthrow the Earth first.
Right.
Here's a vote for manimals. British scientists are soon going to be allowed to do research on human-animal crossover hybrid embryos.
Oh, God.
Yikes.
We're not talking about the car, the hybrid.
No.
The Human Fertilization and Embryology Bill would have outlawed the creation of human admixed embryos for medical research.
Okay.
But, surprisingly enough, they're going to allow scientists to take human DNA and place it inside of animal eggs.
Whoa.
Which I guess their reasoning was like, well, it's harder to get a hold of human eggs.
It is these days.
So it will be legal to culture embryos that are half man, half animal for up to 14 days. It will be illegal to put them inside of a human or animal womb.
Oh, thank God for that, then.
But I mean, come on. Who's really watching? Who's really paying attention?
Right. So we have debates over embryonic stem cells in this country. In other countries, they're producing manimals.
Yeah.
Yes, cytoplasmic hybrids or cybrids.
They run at 50 miles to the gallon, by the way.
Yeah, the cybrid. Well, there's a lot of different names for them, but this also reminds me that there's an excellent comic book out there about just such an abuse of science. It's called Elephant Men, and it's pretty sweet.
All I know is that commercial for the toy truck told me that nothing can stop the animal.
Yeah, although my vote for the overthrow of human race is still technology.
Clever.
And now we move to my favorite news story of the week. My wife and I actually share many favorite movies, but chief among those is Baz Luhrmann's Moulin Rouge,
Sure.
which came out in 2001. He's been a director that I just, because of that and Romeo and Juliet, I have just always loved his style and everything. And this past week, the trailer for Baz Luhrmann's Australia went up online, and it has been 7 years since he did Moulin Rouge, so this is highly anticipated in my eyes. I don't know if anybody else cares.
Oh, yeah.
It stars Nicole Kidman and Hugh Jackman as people living in Australia, obviously. I watched the trailer. I know, Matt, I showed you the trailer. What was your take on that?
It doesn't look as hyperactive as some of the other movies has been. Now, he's 7 years older even now, but I don't know that necessarily means he's getting like slower in style. He just might want to do something a little different. It looks cool, and I do got to say I'm excited that Hugh Jackman is going to be finally getting to speak in his native accent, along with Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, I don't know if people realize how many actors, leading male actors in movies today, are not using their real accent. You know, I think of like Colin Farrell and Hugh Jackman,
Guy Pearce, Christian Bale, and the late Heath Ledger.
You know, Hugh Laurie on House makes an entire living off of speaking with an American accent.
Yes. In fact, I heard that Bryan Singer said, "Now there's a great American actor," when he was casting it, and they said, "Well, he's English," and he's like, "Oh, jeez." Because he was looking for somebody, not that he had to farm in, I guess. So yeah, I agree with you. That's going to be interesting. And if you haven't seen Moulin Rouge, rent that today. Give it a chance. A lot of people said when I went to see it, "You mean that sex movie?" And it's not quite. So now we will turn to our main topic of discussion this week, which is going to be a comic book called Madman, and I will let Matt fill us in from there.
Well, thank you, Brad. Yeah, Madman was my choice for a comic to read, and to some extent, the material that I distributed to Brad, unfortunately I couldn't get Rob a copy of Madman before we got to this review, is actually quite old. I think it goes all the way back to 1992 or something like that.
Right.
But Madman and the Atomics is in single issue form right now, and the author, Mike Allred, he continues to publish all different kinds of Madman stuff, and there's quite a few volumes out there. But Volume 1 is kind of what we're going to be talking about, and that collects the first 3 issues of Madman, and then the first 3 issues of Madman Adventures. I guess if I were to attempt to summarize it, which is difficult, the image of Madman is distinct. He's this guy wearing pretty much like I don't know what to call it, but like long johns,
Yeah.
A full body suit.
Right. Black
Yeah.
boots and the sort of an expressive mask over his face.
To some extent, you could say that it's about a resurrected corpse searching for his identity, meanderingly so. You could also maybe say it's about the search for eternal life. Yeah, it's a lot of things. Go ahead, Brad. What would you say?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a difficult book to wrap your brain around initially. I had a hard time kind of figuring out where it was coming from. Just to sum up, one of the opening scenes in the book, Madman confronts two crooks, and he puts one down on the ground, and he says something about like, all right, now open your mind up to what's about to happen. And he pulls the crook's eyeball out and eats it. So
Wow.
that should give you an idea of where this book's coming from. Madman has problems. He says it in the first page. There's something is very wrong with me.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know if I was supposed to laugh at that or think it was dark.
Yeah.
The tone of the book initially gave me some trouble, but when he meets the scientist, which is somewhere around the second issue, giddy fun. I just immediately started to dig it and laugh. So I took the book to be almost like The Tick, a little bit in sort of slapsticky, absurd, ridiculous humor. It's very fast-paced, a lot of brevity. There's like, there he is. Okay, now we're here.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that pace and stuff. Again, it took me a little while to get into, but once I was rolling, when he meets the scientist asks him to cut his head off, and once he does, he puts it in a jar, and they're about to go track down this guy's clones, when suddenly the scientist says, but first, let's make a snack.
Yeah.
And I laughed out loud. I was like, that's funny. So, the way I kind of would describe his character is basically Frankenstein. In fact, the character's name is Frank Einstein, and I'm betting that was intentional.
Oh, yeah.
And he has a very childlike innocence, which I liked. Madman mentions that he can't cuss.
Yeah.
And he tries to get the F word out, and he just goes, and he says, like, fudge or fiddlesticks or something.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that.
Yeah, and it is interspersed with these little observations of his. He's ultimately like a really innocent, nice guy. But yeah, I remember then.
He's very scatterbrained too.
Yeah,
he wonders about things. Like, he's very curious.
Yeah, he says when he's talking about cussing, I remember him saying, "If only words were just that, only words."
Right. He at one point he says, "I wonder what would happen." He's urinating by a tree, and he says, "I wonder what would happen if time stopped." So he's just like all over the place. The comic is all over the place.
Yeah.
But while it's not my favorite comic that I've ever read, I was glad that you gave this to me, Matt. I think it's a nice diversion. And if you can accept the very bizarre nature of it, if you're a fan of The Tick, I'd probably say check this book out.
Yeah, I should mention that Mike Allred is a Latter-day Saint. One of his big projects that he's going to be doing, I guess, throughout his life is illustrating the Golden Plates, which is an adaptation of the Book of Mormon, which I think his wife helps him to color.
Interesting.
But that's his ongoing thing. But you can definitely tell that the author himself, and he admits it, I think, in the introduction to Volume 1 of Madman, that he himself is kind of scatterbrained and always thinking about some pretty big questions out there, while still trying to have a bit of fun. And
it really does walk that sort of line between both. And I did appreciate that, because in the middle of urinating in the woods, again, these deep questions being asked, and kudos to any book, in my opinion, who tries to give you a little bit more than just the action type of thing.
Yeah, all these little quotes throughout the book that I really like, including one that is, the next time you get the impulse to fight someone, fight the impulse.
Very cool. So, Rob, you have not read this, obviously.
No.
But from the sound of it, what do you think?
From the sound of it, well, I mean, I usually like whatever you guys recommend.
Thank you.
Like, I'm always in the mood for something a little unorthodox.
And it is, yeah.
Very much so.
There's so many of these anti-heroes today, and it was refreshing to see a completely different take on the superhero thing. So
on NPR, they were interviewing a guy who wrote a book about comics, and how way back, like the earliest like Comic-Cons, there was this guy who helped found Marvel,
right.
And he actually predicted, like, I see these being attended by thousands of people and shutting down the city, and Eventually, Hollywood will come to Comic-Con to find out what they're going to be making movies about next year and promoting the movies they made last year. And everybody at the time was just like, whatever. We're talking like this is like the 60s,
Sure.
Yeah. As a tie-in, though, to movies, comic conventions, and the work of Mike Allred, you can see Mike Allred in the Kevin Smith's Chasing Amy. He's playing himself at a comic convention, signing copies of Madman.
Oh, okay. Interesting factoids there. All right, cool. So that is Madman, and check that one out if you're interested. So before we close out the show, I think it's time to stroll down to that local arcade, place our quarter squarely on the Pit Fighter machine, and enjoy a little nostalgia.
Gosh.
This week, I want to answer a critical question that our 9-year-old selves never fully got answered, and that is, which of our favorite fictional characters would win in a fight?
Uh-oh.
There's a lot of wavering in the geek community on some of these questions, but I want to do the public a service here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys 2 fictional characters, and you set the record straight once and for all. No shilly-shallying, no wimping out.
Oh man. Well, we'll see what we can do.
Let's do what we can to finally settle this.
Okay.
Rob, Marvel versus DC.
Marvel. While DC has some of the heavy hitters, Marvel has a much larger army.
There you go. Matt, Aliens versus Predator. Settle it.
Oh, man. Oh, gosh. Well, I mean, geez. The aliens are like the bugs of the universe. And as we all already know, the bugs outnumber everything. It's aliens.
Rob, Spider-Man versus Harry Potter. Settle it.
Oh, Harry Potter. By far. He would Patronus Spider-Man to death.
Boom, settled. Matt, Snuffleupagus versus Frodo. Settle it.
Wow. They both were invisible.
Good point.
But, being crushed by an invisible elephant is, yeah.
Gandalf versus Darth Vader. Settle it.
Oh, my gosh. Wow, Gandalf versus Vader. Dang it. I don't know. I want good to triumph to some extent here.
Well, there's some good inside Vader.
Oh, there's a little bit of good, but yeah.
Wait. Is it Gandalf the Grey or Gandalf the White?
Good question,
Ooh.
Matt.
It's I guess I feel like if it came down to it, Gandalf would pull out some latent power that none of us ever knew about. So
boom, settled. Gandalf. There you go, folks. The winners at last announced.
That was absurd.
Fitting in our Madman week. So, hey, if you, the listeners, would like to add anything, have any opinions on who would win in a fight, you may email us at mail@growing-up-geek.com. Hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you for listening. Once again, I am Brad.
And this is Matt with the words of Madman. Knock!
And I am Rob versus Brad and Matt.
Nice.
And we'll see you next week.
Take it easy, folks.